Hello everybody, Reggie Time here, my first video in over a week I think. I've been very busy this last week with taking in new students from my promotion that I ran towards the end of last week and just playing. I haven't really found much that's made me want to make a video, but I played this hand a few days ago. I've been meaning to make this video for a couple of days now, but I've just never got round to it, and I think it's a really interesting hand. I think it's some interesting lines taken in it, and yeah, I'd just like to get you guys' feedback on it. Let me know what you think. I think it's really interesting. You guys might think it isn't, or you guys might think it's a bad line, it's a good line. Who knows? That's why I want the feedback. The relevant villains in the hand are player 4, I believe, who was a loose passive player, and the villain, I can't remember if it's player 6 or player 7, but the other villain in the hand, the main villain in the hand, he's a very, very tight player, even tighter than myself. So that's hopefully the relevant information. We'll perhaps talk some more about that as we go along. So we'll start the hand. So the loose passive player limps under the gun, and let's call him a nit, because he was a nit, isolated to just 3x. This is the first, I think, piece of information that we get here, is that his isolation size 3x. It's not typical. When someone limps, you typically see people isolate for pot or for 4x or something. It's very rare you see just a 3x isolation. I didn't really know what this meant versus this player, but I tend to think that my initial reaction to these sort of sizes, usually it's someone going for a cheap isolation with like a marginal hand, rather than somebody going for an isolation with like a more premium hand. So I think he's going to have more like suited connectors and things like that in his range than he is like aces and kings and queens and things. So I think he probably makes them a little bit bigger. But because I want to play with the fish, I want the limper in the pot, I elected to just call with my ace queen, when in other times I could have 3-bet for sure. I would 3-bet this hand a lot, but versus a really tight player who's been a small isolation raise and there's a fish that could potentially still play in the pot, I elected to call this time. And the weak player calls too, and we get, on the face of it, a flop that isn't that good for us. We have like backdoor raw flush draw and 2 overs, but that's pretty much it. Player 1 checks. Player 2, I think, makes his second kind of like sizing mistake in this hand, or sort of makes a second sizing that leads me to believe he isn't that strong, because he makes like a, whatever that is, a 1/3 pot size c-bet, something like that. It's really small c-bet, and I would imagine if he had a strong value hand on this board texture with some draws out there against 2 opponents, he'd want to bet much bigger. So at this point I kind of thought my opponent probably has I don't know, something like king queen, maybe ace queen like myself, maybe some ace kings, maybe some like medium pocket pairs that he's just probing around with. I don't know, but again, I didn't think he was particularly strong, so I didn't want to fold here. I didn't really want to raise either. We're still not sure what player 4 is going to do. I just think we have good odds to just call and see a turn. So that's what I did, and the loose passive player gets out of the way, and we get a 7 of clubs on the turn, which I think gave me a range advantage at this spot. In this spot now, I would imagine that board's going to hit my range for calling his raise way more. It's going to hit his range. I think I'm going to have a lot more strong hands than he's going to have, I think, here. And given that he only made a small bet on the flop, I elected to take a line I don't usually take. It's very rare I'll take this line, but I elected to lead out. Which is something I won't do very often at all, but given his 2 sizings so far, am I thinking that he's not that strong? Maybe we can get him to fold now, maybe we can set up some river bluffs, and if we do get called, then we have some equity. But obviously I'm hoping he folds here. I don't need to bluff with his hand, because I guess I could just check call again, because we're beating some of the weaker parts of his range that we can check call versus. But I just thought, fuck it, let's just lead here, try and take the pot down. If we don't, then hopefully we can hit some rivers and make some money. My opponent surprised me then by making a raise, but again, it's not a very big raise. It's a small raise. I didn't really know what to make of it. At this point, I thought maybe I've got this a little bit wrong. Maybe he's stronger than I thought, but it just didn't make sense. He's at the small isolation pre-flop, the small c-bet, and now he wants to raise on a turn that shouldn't really hit his range very hard. given how tight he is pre-flop, given that I doubt he's like isolating with like hands like 8-9 or something like that. Maybe he's isolating with like pocket 7s, pocket 6s, pocket 5s, that type of thing. But I think he bets them that 6s and 5s but to a bigger sizing on the flop. So I kind of like pocket 7s, 8-9. That's kind of what I thought his value range is going to look like. He very rarely has some 2 pairs. Maybe he has 6-7. That's possible, I guess. Or some other like small suited connectors. But again, that wouldn't really fit in with the range of a type player. So I was a little bit confused. But we're getting great pot odds to just call and see a river. So that's what I did. And then the river came down a diamond, king of diamonds. I think at this point I can have a lot more flushes than my opponent. I think the problem is with this river is if I check, he's just going to check back all these like hands that have showdown value, and we're just going to lose to them. We're going to lose versus Jack X. We're going to lose versus whatever like these sets and things that might just check back. I don't think we're going to check back a set too often, but I don't think we have the best hand basically. But I do think this, if we bet here, we have more flushes than he has, and we can certainly have some hands that would play this way. So I elected to just basically jam it in his face. We're not going to show the result of the hand because then you guys will be very result orientated. Either if he folds, you'll be saying, yeah, great bluff. If he calls, you'll be saying, what a fucking idiotic bluff. So we're not going to give the result. But I'm just interested in like what you would make of my line if you were the villain in this hand, if you were like from a type villain's perspective, and what you make of our opponent's line and what you think he's got with his sizings he's made and the line he's taken so far. I think it's a really interesting hand. I hope you guys think it's interesting too, and I would enjoy hearing the feedback from it, either good or bad. If you are going to be critical, which is absolutely fine, please either make it constructive or amusing, because I like both of those things. If you just want to call me a fucking moron or a donkey or how does this guy fucking coach people, I've heard it all before, read it all before, don't really want to read it all again. But any other kind of criticism, amusing or constructive, will be most welcome. So yeah, we'll leave it there. Hope you guys enjoyed the hand, and we'll be back with another one hopefully in less than 1 week. Bye bye for now.